Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Division 21. I am Judge Michael McHenry. Before we call the Aldrich case, it is worth noting that the court has received multiple requests for expanded media coverage. The court has granted that request, which means that the media, in addition to its usual ability to attend the proceedings and to report on this matter, has also been granted permission to record, live stream, and rebroadcast certain portions of the hearing this morning. Both the public and the media should keep in mind that the court must balance the freedom of the press with the rights of the parties to due process and a fair trial. In service of that mission, Colorado law provides that the court retains the power to curtail expanded media coverage when the needs of the case dictate. The media and the public are encouraged to view my order at the Colorado Judicial website and the website for the 4th Judicial District here in Colorado Springs. I have approved expanded media coverage for the entry of plea portion of today's hearing. I will notify you when that portion of the hearing is complete. At such time, recording of the proceedings must cease. The media and the public are welcome to attend the remainder of the hearing, but no further recording or live streaming is allowed. For attendees who are physically present in the courtroom, you are reminded that appropriate courtroom behavior is required. Audible outbursts or other interruptive behavior is not allowed. Any violation of these orders will subject the violator to the loss of the right to attend these proceedings and/or sanctions for contempt of court. Next, I will have the parties introduce themselves. Who do we have present for the people?
Thank you, Your Honor. We have Michael Allen, District Attorney for the 4th Judicial District. Rebecca Joins, Lead Detective from CSPD, and then Reggie Short, Jennifer Veman, and Ben as our Victim Advocate Attorney. And then we have several people from the DA's office. And then obviously, most of the people in the courtroom are victims or victim representatives as well.
All right, thank you. Good morning. Mr. Archambault, for the defense, who do we have present?
Your Honor, Joseph Archambault, Michael Bowman, Amy Kelso, Office of the Colorado State Public Defender's Office, on behalf of Mr. Aldrich, who appears in custody to my right. I also have various staff of the Public Defender's Office behind me.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Today's court date is an arraignment, which is an opportunity for the accused to enter a plea. Is the defense prepared to enter a plea?
Your Honor, we have reached a plea agreement with the District Attorney's Office. If I may approach, this document has signatures from everyone, including the District Attorney's Office.
Yes, please.
And Judge, in anticipation of the plea, obviously, we filed an amended complaint changing count 3 and count 134, which was Friday. I think you have a paper copy of that now.
I do. Is there any objection from the defense to me granting that request for an amendment to the complaint?
No, Your Honor.
All right, that'll be granted. Give me just one moment with the paperwork. Anderson Aldrich, your attorneys have handed me paperwork which demonstrates your desire to plead guilty to certain of the charges that you've been charged with. This means that you and I are going to hold a conversation here this morning, and I need to know how to address you. Excuse me. In the past, your attorneys have told me that you identify as non-binary and you prefer the honorific mix. Can you tell me how you prefer to be addressed?
That is correct. I am Mix Aldrich.
All right. For the purpose of this conversation, I'm going to ask you to stand at the lectern with your attorney.
Just one moment, Your Honor, just to move some chairs.
Yes.
Mike. Copy. Tell you. I'll get it.
Mix Aldridge, as I analyze this paperwork, I see that it attempts to reflect your desire to plead guilty to 5 counts of murder in the first degree, 46 counts of attempted murder in the first degree, and 2 bias-motivated crimes. Is this in fact what you wish to do?
Yes, Your Honor.
This paperwork also indicates that on the 5 murder in the first-degree charges, you would receive 5 consecutive life sentences to the Colorado Department of Corrections without the possibility of parole. Are you aware of that?
Yes, Your Honor.
This paperwork also reflects that you would be receiving 46 consecutive 48-year sentences for the attempted murder counts, followed by mandatory periods of parole. Is this in fact the plea agreement you wish to enter into?
Yes, Your Honor.
Finally, this paperwork reflects your desire to plead no contest to a Class 5 felony bias-motivated crime and a Class 1 misdemeanor bias-motivated crime with associated sentences to the Department of Corrections. Is this in fact what you wish to do?
Yes, Your Honor.
I can allow you to do this, but first I need to get some background information from you. Please tell me your full name
Anderson Lee Aldrich,
and how old are you?
23,
What is your date of birth?
5/20/2000,
How many years of education have you been through?
12.
So do you read, write, and understand the English language?
Yes.
Do you suffer from any type of mental health problem that would prevent you from understanding what it is you're doing here today?
No.
As we speak, do you happen to be under the influence of any prescribed medications or alcohol or drugs?
I have prescribed medication that I take every day.
These are mental health meds prescribed by the jail. Does the court want the names of them, or is that enough?
Can you just tell me briefly what category of medications they are and what they're for?
Yes, there are mood stabilizers, antipsychotic meds, blood pressure medication, PTSD medication, and cholesterol medication.
Do those medications cloud your judgment or otherwise affect your cognition?
No, Your Honor.
So are you clear thinking here today?
Yes, Your Honor.
Where were you born?
San Diego, California.
And so are you a United States citizen?
Yes.
Have you had enough time to discuss your case with your attorneys?
Yes.
Are you satisfied with their representation?
Yes.
Now, when a person tells me they wish to plead guilty to a crime, that's another way of saying that you're waiving your right to a jury trial and all the rights that go along with having a jury trial. I need to make sure that you and I are talking about the same thing when we talk about a jury trial. I'm talking about a speedy and public trial. That's a trial that would be given to you within 6 months of the day that you plead not guilty. Any member of the public could come and watch the entirety of the trial. At the trial, you have the right to be represented by an attorney, and in your case, that would be Mr. Archambault and Bowen. At the trial, you have a presumption of innocence, which means that the burden of proving the charge against you is on the prosecutor. You are not required to prove your innocence. By law, the prosecution must prove the charges beyond a reasonable doubt before a jury could return a guilty verdict. At the trial, you have the right to testify if you wish, or to remain silent if you wish. Your lawyer is there to give you advice, but your lawyer does not get to make that decision for you. You must make an independent decision about whether to testify or not. If you choose not to testify, I can instruct the jury that the jury is not allowed to use your silence against you. At the trial, you have the right to confront and cross-examine the witnesses who appear against you. You also have the power to subpoena your own witnesses to come to the trial to testify on your behalf. If the jury were to convict you, you have the right to appeal your conviction to the Colorado Court of Appeals. Do you understand all of the rights that you're giving up when you choose to plead guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, murder in the first degree is defined as you, in the state of Colorado, at or about the date and place charged in the complaint, after deliberation and with intent to cause the death of a person other than themselves caused the death of the victim. Do you have any questions about how this crime is defined?
No, Your Honor.
Criminal attempt to commit murder in the first degree is defined as you, in the state of Colorado, at or about the date and place charged in the complaint, with intent, you engaged in a substantial step towards the commission of murder in the first degree. Do you have any questions about how this crime is defined?
No, Your Honor.
The Class 5 felony version of a bias-motivated crime is defined as you, in the state of Colorado, at or about the date and place charged in the complaint, with the intent to intimidate or harass another person in whole or in part because of that person's actual or perceived race, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, physical or mental disability, or sexual orientation. You knowingly caused bodily injury to another person. Do you have any questions about how that crime is defined?
No, Your Honor.
The Class 1 misdemeanor charge of a bias-motivated crime is defined as you, in the state of Colorado, at or about the date and place charged in the complaint, with the intent to intimidate or harass another person in whole or in part because of that person's actual or perceived race, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, physical or mental disability, or sexual orientation. You knowingly, by words or conduct, placed another person in fear of imminent lawless action directed at that person or that person's property, and such words or conduct were likely to produce bodily injury to that person or damage to that person's property. Do you have any questions about how that crime is defined?
No, Your Honor.
We've already briefly discussed what the potential sentence would be pursuant to this plea agreement. However, I need to emphasize the full range of the stakes at issue here. We've already discussed the life sentence without the possibility of parole associated with the 5 first-degree murder counts. I need to make sure that you understand that parole is not a possibility on those charges. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
On the attempted murder counts, there would be mandatory, and I need to double check the accuracy of this with counsel. Is it 3 years
For the attempted murder,
for the attempted murder?
for parole,
For,
5. Last 2, yeah.
and so I received an early copy of this plea agreement, and I thought it said 3, and I would just like counsel to double check the accuracy of that.
So a class 2 felony judge is a 5-year period of
Right.
parole? Yeah.
So Ms. Aldrich, do you understand that those counts have mandatory 5-year periods of parole that would follow each of those sentences?
Yes, Your Honor.
And then as to the class 5 felony bias motivated crime, there's a mandatory 3-year period of parole. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
The class 1 misdemeanor bias motivated crime does not have a mandatory parole period, but I have the discretion to allow you to serve that sentence in the Department of Corrections rather than the county jail. I'm assuming counsel are aware of the logistical difficulties that can occur if I don't order that. Is there any objection to me ordering that?
No, Judge, and it's contemplated in the plea paperwork as well.
Right. Ms. Aldrich, when I look at the last page of this plea agreement, I see that it's been signed by Mr. Short from the District Attorney's Office. I see that it's been signed by Mr. Archambault representing you. And then I see a third signature here. Is this third signature your signature?
Yes, Your Honor.
And does your signature represent the fact that you have read this document, you have discussed it with your attorneys, and you agree with what it says?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, your guilty pleas must be entered voluntarily. No one can force you to plead guilty against your will. So the most important question I have for you this morning is anyone pressuring you to plead guilty when you really don't want to?
No, Your Honor.
Has anyone made you any promises in exchange for pleading guilty where those promises are not located within this written plea agreement?
No, Your Honor.
Once you decide to plead guilty and once I accept your guilty plea, it is a final decision. You will not be allowed to change your mind and ask to have a trial at a later time. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
The specific counts in the information and complaint that was filed in this case that relate to the 5 counts of murder in the first degree that I understand you're pleading guilty to are counts numbers 1, 4, 7, 10, and 13. Those relate to the victims by the names of Kelly Loving, Daniel Aston, Derek Rump, Ashley Paw, and Raymond Green Vance. To those 5 counts of murder in the first degree, how do you plead?
Guilty.
The counts that are associated with the 46 attempted murder counts are outlined in the plea agreement, and they are associated with the victims by the names of Talalia Priester, Barrett Hudson, Channing Law, Edward Sanders, Lauren Berg, Charlene Slaw, Jericho Lovell, Felicia Collins, Tara Bush, Anthony Malberg, Thomas James, James Slaw, Joanne Law, Michaela Sanchez, Isaiah Aponte, Ashton Gamblin, John Carlos Del Val, Cassandra Fierro, Matthew Broderick, Rain Vasquez, Wyatt Kent, David McRae, Amber Brooks, Richard Fierro, Sean Shelby, John Arcidiano, Ian Alder, Jeremiah Griffith, Jessica Fierro, Brittany Cornelius, Deanna Van Sickett, Joshua Thurman, Michael Anderson, Devin Dracht, Christiana Lovell, Brianna Winningham, Martin Rendelman, Michael Gary, Svetlana Heim, Del Luginal, Azaria LaCour, Bianca Perez, Alicia Huvera, Salahidin Rabea, Ramon Rodriguez, and Dre Norman. To those 46 counts of attempted murder in the first degree, how do you plead?
Guilty.
To the Class 5 felony charge of a bias-motivated crime, the victims listed for that count are all of the names that I have mentioned here this morning. To that Class 5 felony bias-motivated crime, how do you plead?
No contest.
To the Class 1 misdemeanor bias-motivated crime, the listed victims associated with that count is every name I have read here this morning. To that count, how do you plead?
No contest.
Tell me in your own words what it is you did that makes you feel that you are guilty of these crimes.
I intentionally and after deliberation caused the death of each victims listed in those counts. And then with the attempted first-degree murder counts with intent to commit murder in the first degree, took a substantial step toward committing murder in the first degree of each of those victims.
And what about the bias-motivated crimes?
One moment, Your Honor.
Um,
One moment, Your Honor.
I apologize. Because of the evidence presented, I believe that there's a high probability of being convicted at trial to those counts, and so I'm pleading no contest or nolo contendere.
All right. Is this a sufficient factual basis for the people?
Judge, I think it's a bare bones factual basis. I would ask the court to also take judicial notice of all of the evidence presented at the preliminary hearing for all of the murder counts as well as the attempted murder counts, and then also for the bias motivated counts. I think the evidence that we presented at that hearing, obviously the court heard that evidence, found proof evident presumption great. The evidence is very clear that this defendant committed these offenses and that it was done because of a bias motivation towards the victims in this case, specifically due to their sexual orientation and being present at Club Q on November 19th of last year. And so I would ask the court to take judicial notice of that preliminary hearing evidence as well as what the defendant has said here this morning.
Any objection from the defense to that procedure?
No, Your Honor.
The court will in fact take judicial notice of the probable cause affidavit and the evidence I heard at the preliminary hearing and the bond hearing. The court is finding, does either side believe I need to make any special findings regarding the no contest plea?
No, I think especially based upon the language of this 14-page plea agreement, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either, Judge.
Ms. Aldrich, do you understand that a no contest plea has certain legal ramifications, but those legal ramifications do not depart very far from an actual guilty plea, meaning that the justice system will treat you the same almost as if you had said you were in fact guilty of those offenses? Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. I find that there is a sufficient factual basis for your guilty pleas and your no contest pleas. I find you are represented by competent counsel. You understand the nature of the charges and the possible penalties. You are not under the influence of anything that could affect your thinking here today. Your pleas are entered knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily. They are not the product of any undue influence or coercion. Now, typically, we would do a pre-sentence investigation before we went to sentencing. But I understand from the paperwork that I've been presented here today that the parties wish to go to immediate sentencing. Mr. Allen, is that correct?
That's absolutely right, Your Honor. And we have a number of people that would like to address the court when the court's time is appropriate for that.
Understood. Mr. Archambault, is that in fact the request of the defense?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the recordable portion of this morning's hearing, and the media is ordered to cease any recording or live streaming at this time. Anyone viewing today's proceedings